Hello and welcome to episode 70 of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
And I'm Ian.
I'm joined by my permanent guest host, Ian.
Yes. Hey.
And I called you a guest host because you don't have notes.
I had notes for the last episode.
You did, kind of.
Were my notes, was I able to use my notes to interject
You were.
reasonable and accurate information into the conversation?
Yeah, somehow it was weird, though. You, paraphrased something I had said, though.
No, the article paraphrased something you said. I didn't do that.
That was almost kind of eerie, though.
Yeah. It was surprisingly almost verbatim what you just said. That's why I asked you if you had read that article. So.
No, I actually, when it comes to vinyl stuff, so our last episode was on vinyl if you didn't listen to it, but
if you didn't listen to it, you're a cunt.
A jackass. But a lot of that stuff, I don't really need to do a whole lot of research. I just know a lot of stuff.
Says the person who had 4 fucking pages of typed notes.
Yes, but it's vinyl, so I mean, I kind of
typed it all from memory.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I did look up some of the stuff on Dynaflex and things like that.
Right.
But outside of that, I mean, obviously, I'd had to look up records that were coming out in the month of May, but
what's up with that Justin Timberlake thing that keeps going around about May? It's like a meme. I don't understand it.
It's going to be May.
Yeah, is that a song or something?
It's going to be me. But the way he says me, it sounds like May. It's an NSYNC thing.
Oh yeah. Well, why the fuck would I know that?
It's going to be May.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay. Fair enough. I just wasn't sure. I figured you'd know.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's been around for a long fucking time, Ian.
This is the first year I've noticed it.
Really?
Yeah, and I just
it's been at least 4 years.
Okay, well, great. I just never noticed it before. I'm sorry if my NSYNC knowledge is lacking.
It's not NSYNC knowledge. It's hey, why does Justin Timberlake keep popping up talking about it being May?
I don't pay any attention to that shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
I mean, do I need to grovel? Do I have to really apologize for not understanding this meme?
It doesn't really surprise me because you're not a big Facebook kind of
not
person.
really. I use I've told you a million times. I use Facebook to kill the time while I'm outside smoking or vaping.
Yeah,
vaping now 2 months officially.
Yeah, good job.
Yep,
good job.
As of the 3rd.
I've been clean for
12 and a half years.
12 and a half years.
Well, I'm not entirely clean because I am using the crutch of vaping, but at least I haven't had a cigarette in 2 months.
It's something. It's definitely something.
Definitely a start, and I can definitely tell the difference in my breathing. Yeah.
So when are you gonna start hitting the gym then?
Soon. Yeah, it's gonna have to happen. Cause,
and I'm laughing because Ian's been
saying that for a long time.
4 months
but
at least.
It's okay, now I can breathe. But that only gets you so far when you're carrying around a lot of extra weight.
Yeah. So I've got a treadmill and stuff in my basement. Actually, I had a really nice elliptical that converted into a recumbent bike that I just got rid of. But so I used to exercise in my basement here, and then so Ian was talking about getting a gym membership, and I was like, and Mandy has one. I was like, well, sweet, I'll get a gym membership, and shit, I can just go on a weekend. I can just go to the gym with Ian. And I'm fucking waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. It's been 5 months now. I'm just waiting. I'm going. I mean, I'm going, but
yeah, that's all that matters, right? See, I inspired you to get a gym membership, so you can say at my funeral, you can say, "I'm outliving you. Thank you, Ian, for recommending that gym membership."
I guess my employer encouraged me
with money.
Yeah,
and I'm not signing up for that.
They pay for half of it. Why not?
Oh. For that, they got that M Healthy thing that you get $200 if you finish.
Oh no, that's different.
Oh.
This all you do I go online, and obviously if your gym membership, I know this is completely stupid and pointless to everyone else who's listening, but if your gym membership is only $10 a month, they cover $10 a month.
Right. I think I'm going to get the $20.
So that's why I do the $20 one. All I got to do is go on Planet Fitness's website and I just print out my statements and I upload it, and then.
They reimburse you for half of it.
In June, I'll get a check for $60, and then at the end of the year, I'll get another check for $60.
Yeah, cool.
So it covers half the cost of the year for a membership.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I'll do that for sure.
Or if you do the $10,
it covers the whole.
It covers the whole thing.
Yeah. No, because I want to be able to go to other locations if necessary. Because you're obviously going out here, and I'd be going to the one in Belleville. If we were going to go together, I'd want to go to whichever one,
Yeah. They're all the same. But
I know, but
I'm kind of a man whore, so I like going in there and tanning every once in a while. So
yeah, you are a whore.
not really, but I'm like the complete opposite of a whore. But,
yeah,
because I've been in a very monogamous relationship for like 20 years. So
yeah, well, good for you.
Hey, every once in a while you like a little tan on you, I guess. No, I don't like being pasty fucking white all the time.
I don't care about being pasty white. I don't like going outside anyway.
So that's why I just go stay in the booth, and I don't have to go stand outside anymore. See, that's the other thing. Like I worked a job for like 20 years where I was like outside all the time.
Right.
So now being like pasty white, I'm like, this is kind of weird. Working inside.
Yeah. Oh, just working at a job where you're sitting on your ass most of the time.
Yeah,
has been a huge adjustment.
You know what
for
I've
me.
noticed? Speaking of that, and so my wife Mandy gets on me all the time because I eat standing up, and
okay,
like so we sat down to eat dinner tonight, and I'm like standing at the counter eating. I mean, he's like, "Why don't you come over here and sit down? There's an empty seat right here."
Right.
I was like, well, because I think it's the point now where I sit down so much between work and driving all over hell and half of Georgia and school. I mean, I'm on my ass a lot, and I was like, it just feels good to just stand up.
Well, I mean, just even being at work, there's times where you have to stand up because you've been sitting for 2.5, 3 hours, and it's just like your legs don't. You're like, are my legs even there?
Yeah.
I
usually get tired of sitting there.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like, when I stand up, am I just going to fall down because my legs don't work anymore?
You probably will.
Well,
Humpty Dumpty.
Is that a fat joke? Are you body shaming me, Nick?
It wasn't really meant to be a fat joke. But
it sounds like a fat joke, and I think you're body shaming. You're a terrible person.
Body shaming you.
Isn't that the thing now?
I guess
body shaming and
well, I didn't mean it as a fat joke, but
no, it sounded like a fat joke to me. It doesn't matter what your intentions are anymore. These days, if you say it, it's only what other people take.
Speaking of intentions, so we do have a topic for today, and it has nothing to do with intentions, but it has everything to do with immigration.
Immigration myths.
Yeah, well, it kind of all came about, and it was like the world's worst segue, but it was kind of meant to be
hey, we're the world's worst podcast, so what the hell?
Hey, no, we're not. I've heard podcasts that are way fucking worse than ours.
I know, my other one.
So Ian's got a podcast. It's a new podcast called Ian and Jace's Video Cellar.
Yeah, it's strictly horror movies.
Yeah, episode 0 is out now, so definitely go check them out on they're on iTunes and I don't know where else.
Podbean, all the places you can find this show.
Well,
not.
It's not going to be on Stitcher. It's not on Spotify. It's not on iHeart. You've got to apply to all that.
Okay, but it's on like Podbean and iTunes.
It's on Podbean and iTunes.
Right.
You have to apply, like I said, to those. You have to apply to Google also. Okay. So Ian's got some work he's got to do to get his podcast.
That sounds unfortunate for the podcast.
Oh my god!
No, I'll get to
kids. There's only so much I can help him with.
Yeah, I'll get to cracking on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So episode 0 is up.
Yep.
It's been up for about a week?
23rd.
23rd?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be up April 5th.
Yeah. But it even says in the episode it's going to be up to April 5th. Yeah.
So it only took like an extra 18 days.
For me, that's pretty good.
It's pretty piss poor, but.
Well, for me, it's good. Because I'm a piss poor person.
Since we're recording this at we're recording this at like 12:15 in the morning, and I'll have episodes up in 2 days. But
yeah, well,
it is what it is.
I don't know what to tell you.
So immigration. So yeah, so it's something that kind of caught my eye because obviously it's been something in the news lately, and reading over a lot of posts, I've really kind of tried to pull back from some of the political garbage that I see on social media.
Yeah, which it's all political garbage.
Yeah, I mean, if it's political, it's typically political garbage.
Yes.
And a lot of the stuff I've seen I'm part of a political group on Facebook that seems to be majority like crazy one way or crazy the other way.
Yeah. Well, that's all. When you're on social media, there is really no in between.
No, it doesn't seem. I guess so. It's just a lot of the like. I don't know. When I first got into the group, I would engage some of these people and have it would be like a 3-hour social media argument that would just turn into him calling me an asshole and just
right
stupid. It would just kind of lose all
credibility as far as a reasonable argument goes.
Yeah, sure, yeah, something like that. So it's just like so I've seen a lot of these like immigration posts, and it bothers me that people really have no idea how the immigration system works in the U.S. And I'm not just saying this as someone that lives in this country and thinks they know what they're talking about. This is what I did.
Right. You worked in it for a while.
I worked in it for 3 years. Uh-huh. I day in and day out, I was on the ground, fighting for immigrants in this country. So I granted, some things have slightly changed since then, but I mean, for the most part, I have a very good grasp on how the immigration system works, and at least with my own 2 eyes, seen a lot of things that when I see these social media posts, it's like, okay, I've seen with my eyes that is not true.
Right.
Like it's just a flat out lie.
Yep. Yeah. And you get that on both sides, but it's more so on the anti-immigration side.
Well, yeah,
in my experience,
both sides lie about different things, but yeah, that's just one of the anti-immigration thing. I think falls into a somewhat of a racist side of it.
And yeah, I'd say that's a huge part of it.
And no, I've got like 10 things. I don't know if we're gonna get through all 10 of them, but and what I want to try to do is kind of stay away from the political name calling kind of stance, and just kind of go through why I think or we think that some of this stuff is just, it's unfortunate that this stuff has stayed in the social media realm and people kind of eat it up. If that makes sense. That makes sense to you? Mm-hmm. As you yawn.
Sorry.
Am I that fucking boring already?
No. Hey.
Jesus.
I've been awake for about 6 hours at this point. I know it sounds bad. I work midnight, so
I know.
My body it's now trying to readjust to a day schedule because I kind of sort of will be on a day schedule for the next 3-4 days, and then I have to go back to a night schedule. So
yeah, it's flipping back 4 sucks.
Yeah,
but so kind of like the first myth that I wanted to kind of tackle was the whole anchor baby myth.
Okay.
Which you know what they say.
Absolutely,
people will come to this country,
become pregnant, drop the baby so that they can stay too. Yeah.
But it's not true.
No.
So it just, having a child born in the U.S. doesn't mean that you can gain any kind of lawful status easily. I mean, because first off, so if you're an undocumented immigrant, you come into the U.S. and you have a kid. Yes, you're right. That kid can petition for you, but that kid can't petition for you until he's 21.
21. Okay.
So a U.S. citizen cannot petition for a parent until they're at least 21 years old. So they filed. So an I-130 is a petition for an alien relative. So you file the I-130. It could take a couple of years. Really, it could take several years for that petition to get approved. I don't know what the current wait time was, but I've seen as little as 10 to 12 months. I've seen it at
2 or 3 years,
18 months or plus.
Yeah.
It depends on if you get a request for additional evidence and things like that. There's
so what you're saying, an anchor baby isn't just come over, drop a baby, and you're staying. It's come over, have a baby, wait 23 years.
Oh no, because it's even longer than that.
Okay.
So let me get through this. So once the I-130 gets approved, the parent would then have to go through the consular processing process, which consular processing means that you go to your country of origin, and go to an interview at the consulate.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense, right?
Right.
So, but the thing is, if once you're in the United States illegally and you accrue 1 year's worth of unlawful presence, when you exit the U.S., when you cross the border to go to your home country, I don't want to say home country because your home country of origin.
Right.
As soon as you cross the border and leave the United States, you trigger what's known as the 10-year bar of inadmissibility, which means you can't legally come back in the United States on a visa for 10 years.
Right.
You can get a waiver for the bar, but the petitioned alien needs to show an extreme hardship to a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, spouse, or parent. So U.S. citizen children aren't even grounds for a waiver.
Right.
So where's the anchor baby part?
That's all in the rhetoric. That's what it is.
So I guess it's true to the fact that you're right. You can come in here, have a child, a U.S. citizen, born child, and then leave as soon as they're born, and you can come back,
in 23 years, 21, 23.
21 years if you have less than, I think it's once you hit 6 months of unlawful presence, it's 3 years that you're inadmissible to the U.S.
Right.
And then at 1 year, it's 10 years. Right. So I guess if you sneak in real quick, have the kid, then leave, you can come back in 21 years.
Right.
If you're here for a year, you're not coming back for 31 years.
Right.
After you leave. Well, 31. It'd be 21. I guess it'd be
still be 21 years.
Well, 21 years, and that they can petition for you, and then it's gonna be 10 years for whenever you leave after that.
Okay. Right.
So
yeah, I don't know. I've never understood the argument there, because what difference does it make? I mean, even if you just look at it just on the surface, if you anchor baby, whatever. What is the difference between a husband and wife coming here, having a baby, whether they're here legally or not? We'll say for the sake of argument, illegally, they have a baby. That's how this country was born. People came over here, they bought a house, or at least established some kind of living status, and then they had babies.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's how all of us got here.
Yeah.
Unless you're Native American, and even surprisingly, even they're being rounded up by ICE these days.
Well, and
there's 3 cases of that so far.
And speaking of ICE, according to ICE, between 2015 and the end of 2017, because I haven't seen numbers from 2018.
Yeah, they probably haven't been released yet.
Probably not. So between 2015 and the end of 2017, they deported 87,351 parents who had at least one U.S. citizen child.
Okay.
So I mean, it's if you think the people are coming here and having kids to stay,
it's not working.
It's not working.
And, at least not for 87,000 of them.
And that's pre-Trump.
Right.
I want to say also.
Well, 17 would be for sure. Well, no, 17. If we all go back to 17, that would be under his term, but
2015 to the end of 2017.
Oh, 2015. Oh, yeah. That's
2015.
Right. Yeah.
So that's pre-Trump.
That's pre-Trump.
So,
yeah.
I mean.
Well, I don't know what the deportation rates are now, but there's no arguing that Obama was called the deporter in chief.
Oh, yeah. There was, definitely. That's what people called him when I was working in immigration.
Right. So.
Because that was the thing when they rolled out deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, in 2012, because that's when I started working in immigration. It was like a trade off. Okay, we're gonna give deferred action to these children, but we're gonna ramp up, deportations because of it, right. And they did. They mass deported people,
right?
So yeah, that's it. Just so the whole anchor baby term is always kind of
it's rhetoric. It's talking points or sound bites, sound clips, things that resonate with people who don't investigate anything. They take everything at face value from certain sources, and that's it.
Yeah.
So and it's something. It's easy for Trump to, it's got to be something easy for him to bring up multiple times. Because
otherwise,
it's not him.
I mean, it's
not just
the anchor baby thing has been going on since Reagan in the 80s.
I know, but I mean, but that's the Republican game plan. That's the page 1 of their playbook.
No, but I'm
simple.
I'm trying to stay away from the political side of it.
Well, it's going to be tough. Hard. I mean, we're trying to be balanced by acknowledging Obama's deficiencies in immigration policy, but
it was a trade-off, is what I said. Right. The whole Obama thing, like I said, yes, he gave deferred action, but because of deferred action, they ramped up removals also.
Right.
Because they said, look, if you came to the United States before the age of 16, you've kept your nose clean, you haven't gotten any kind of legal trouble, you graduated high school, or you're still in high school, you haven't had any kind of major issues, here, we'll let you stay in the United States. But deferred action didn't give any kind of lawful status. It just deferred removal.
Right. Is
all it did. And they said, look, so since we're giving you this status, pretty much everyone other than that, if you have crimes, if you have issues, severe criminal cases and things like that, we're going to remove all those people. That's what they did.
Which is the argument anyway. I mean, that's what whatever side. The argument against immigration is it's just criminals coming over. So if we're deporting all the criminals, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm always gonna. I can't address these issues completely bipartisan.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that the bad stuff falls evenly.
From what I've seen,
I mean,
you're
some
right.
of it does, but as far as if you look at the bad stuff, all the bad stuff combined, there's going to be a heavier limit or a heavier weight of it on one side of the aisle. That's just the fact of the matter, and because of the racial issue of it, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. So and going to the whole one side, not the other side, kind of hits to my next myth, which is the southern border crisis myth.
Right.
I mean, it just illegal crossings have actually been they've actually decreased. I want to say the number's like 70%.
Yeah, I know.
Since 2000.
For several years through the first decade of the 2000s, weren't we at like net zero immigration as we begin with?
Like 2012, 2013, 2014, yeah, we were at net zero.
Right.
So we were deporting people. We were deporting as many people that were coming in.
Exactly.
There, so I mean, but there is some truth to the issue at the southern border because
people are coming over.
Yes,
I mean
illegal crossings have been up the last 12 months or so.
Right.
But overall, from year to year, the numbers have been actually down.
Right. Well, and you can pinpoint why that is. I mean, there's a huge issue down in South America right now.
Well, Central America
primarily, but South America and all that too.
Yeah.
That's where they're coming from. It's not even Mexico necessarily. It's people coming through Mexico
from El Salvador, Guatemala.
That's Ecuador, all, I think too. Right.
That's all central.
I know, but I'm just you were mentioning other countries.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, and a lot of the issues in those countries, unfortunately, are that way because of a result of U.S. actions over the last 30
or lack
plus
of
years.
actions,
or lack of action,
in some cases. But mostly actions because we've been poking the bear in South and Central America for decades. So, yeah. Anyway,
so I mean, it's yes, there is. We're definitely having some humanitarian issues at the border, just because of all the people that are flooding in, asking for asylum,
right?
And just. So we only have a certain amount of immigration courts in the United States, and there's only a small number of immigration judges at those courts. When I worked in immigration, it was to get a if you're hearing, so if you went to the hearing, if you're an undocumented immigrant, you go to immigration court and you say, look, I need time to get an attorney to plead my case. They would reschedule your next court date for probably 18 months or more.
I was going to say 2 years. Yeah.
Because at that time, that's how backed up they were. I could only imagine how backed up they are now. It's probably 3 years now to get a hearing.
Right.
So you've got a small number of judges that are trying to hear these cases, and they're just being flooded. Okay, so if you're a poor woman from Honduras fleeing to the United States, and you come to the U.S. border and you say, "Look, I brought my 2 small children with me. We were seeking asylum.
Our country's war torn. And
what do you do with them? What do you do with those people?"
Right.
Because at this point, what the United States does is they give them paperwork for when their court date's going to be, and they say, "Okay, well, if there's a family member or somebody like that in the United States, we'll allow you to go live with them until your court date."
Uh-huh.
But part of our political system in the United States doesn't want that to happen.
Right, because now under current laws, if they're under those situations, but they're spotted on the street by an ICE or any officer, because all police officers are supposed to report
under 287G.
Yeah.
But
so if they're found on the street or even engaged in like a minor car accident or something, where the police might be involved, doesn't have to be crime, just something. If they're suspected, they can be deported by that standard, or at least arrested.
No,
as not being documented.
So you would have to have in that situation where you come in and get asylum, you'd have to keep your paperwork on you, because if you were ever stopped,
so that court date or whatever would be enough to keep you from getting arrested.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And what you would do is every month you would have to go into an ICE office and sign in, which that was one of the jobs, one of the duties I had at the immigration firm I worked at, was I would take our clients down to ICE every month, and have them sign in. Okay. Because it just that's showing ICE that you're
willing to do what's necessary,
and they're kind of keeping track of where you're at and things like that.
It's kind of a good faith kind of thing. I would have
kind of. So I mean, with that situation in mind, if you're that woman with 2 small children, what's the alternative? To lock you in a jail for 3 years,
right? And who can afford that on top of the cost of all the immigration?
But that's what I'm saying is now you're asking the people of the United States to foot that bill.
Well, I mean, we're already footing the bill on the court system, but that's
true. But we're not footing the bill to house and feed thousands upon thousands of people also.
Right,
and you're basically imprisoning victims.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. There's more of a moral issue and an ethical issue over a financial issue, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Moral and ethical issues should always trump financial, I think.
Yeah.
Because what's the point if we can't take care of? I'm not suggesting that we take care of everyone in the world, but if someone comes to you with help and they're obviously in need, you don't throw them in a cage.
No. And that kind of brings me to my next point, which is this, and I've heard this quite a bit lately, is that asylum needs to be more difficult to get in the United States.
It sounds pretty difficult already.
Asylum is incredibly difficult to get. To be granted asylum, the asylee needs to establish that they've got some kind of well-founded fear of persecution, whether it's based on race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or a political opinion.
Right.
So and it's an extremely high bar to reach. You have to have some kind of evidence to back up your story. Just going in with personal statements as evidence, you're never going to win a case like that. And these were by far the hardest cases I dealt with in immigration. Mm-hmm. And I remember one guy we had in particular. He was from, I think it was El Salvador. And during an election down there, he was handing out pamphlets for
the opposition.
Yeah, but I don't remember if it was. I don't even remember if he knew which side. He was just, hey, they hired.
It was probably a job.
Yeah.
We'll give you $10 today. If
exactly, whatever it was. And they had, I don't remember the name of the gang, but there was like the 10-second gang or something like that, whatever it was in Spanish. But so they came by and they beat them up for exactly 10 seconds. Well, the immigration court didn't see that as grounds for a well-founded fear of persecution. So they denied his case, even though we thought we didn't think it was like a rock solid case, but we thought it was
solid enough.
Solid enough. For if not, generally when you file for asylum, you also file for withholding of removal also. So if your asylum case fails, hopefully you can still win
to not be deported.
The other half of the case, and not, withholding of removal is almost like a deferred action kind of thing.
Okay.
Whereas asylum gives you'll eventually be able to get some kind of legal status.
Right. And I would assume even apply to become citizen, right?
Over a period of time, yeah. Right. But withholding removal, you don't. It's just you're kind of like in limbo.
Right.
But he didn't even win on withholding, so he ended up getting deported. But I remember another immigration court case. It didn't happen at our firm. It happened in another firm in Nashville. Actually, I don't know if it was at their Nashville office. It might have been their Chattanooga or Memphis office.
Right.
But anyway, it was
Tennessee.
It was in Tennessee. But they had what they felt was a pretty decent asylum case. They went to court, presented the evidence, and they lost. They lost the case. So their client got deported back to El Salvador or Guatemala. I don't remember which one it was. Yeah, 2 days later he was murdered.
Yeah.
2 days after returning, he was murdered. And I think the family tried to bring a suit against the law firm over. So I mean, these are extremely difficult cases to win.
Right.
And it really pisses me off when people make it sound like, oh yeah, I'm coming to knock on the door of the U.S. Hey, I'm looking for asylum, and they just say, oh yeah, come on in. And
that's what I mean. That's why I said it's very difficult to, because that's one side. That's one side of the political spectrum that talks like that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to plead a little bit of ignorance here, because obviously our immigration system in 2018, it's 2019, but we'll say 2018 because it's the last fiscal year or whatever, full year. Compared to what, say, it was in 1818, did we even have an immigration system then? And it obviously wouldn't have been that.
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, at that time, you just showed up at Ellis Island and, signed your name in a book and went on your way.
Right. Same in, like, say, 1919. Right?
Yeah.
1918. So, what's the difference now? Is it just because there's obviously the population of the country is heavier now?
It is.
Is that the only thing? Because
they passed, I don't know what year it was, but they passed caps on how many visas
I know, but why? I mean, what's the difference? Where's the distinction? Is it because more people were coming?
I would assume so.
Is that strictly it? It's a numbers game?
I would assume so.
Because I mean, it just seems to me like the flow of immigrants in the 18th and 19th century, or even
it was gigantic, especially
19th century, late 19th century,
late 19th century,
and early 20th had to be massive.
Yeah, millions a year.
Even looking back at, say, post World War One. I mean, we probably got a huge influx of immigrants. Say 1918, 1920. There would have had to have been huge, because from the war, Europe was devastated by war.
Yeah.
And I just don't.
A lot of people are killed also. But.
True, but I mean, I guess where I was going with the question is, the system we have is extremely complicated and extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Does it have to be? Is the question I'm asking.
Because probably not.
Because a lot of things in this country and in the world in general are made way more complicated than they probably should be, and that's why that's what I was getting at.
So there was the Gang of Eight in the Senate. What, 2016? No, before that. I moved back to Michigan in 2015, so it had to have been 2014 probably.
Okay. I'm familiar with the Gang of Eight to a degree.
They had put together a comprehensive immigration reform. They kind of, fixed a lot of the issues that I saw in the program or in the system and kind of streamlined a lot of it, but it never went anywhere.
Right.
Because there just wasn't the political will to move it.
Right. Could that bill be brought up now, or is the will just shifted so much?
I think it's shifted so far that's. There wasn't. No one was going to do anything with it.
Right. But that's what I mean. There's a political will now.
No, there's even less of one now.
Yeah, but it's an issue. It's a bigger issue as far as like at least talking points go.
But I think it's, Republicans use it as a way to beat Democrats over the head.
Well, that's.
I don't think there's anything that they really want to do about it.
Well, that's pretty common with any Republican thing.
Because it's good politically for them.
It's like healthcare. They want to get rid of Obamacare, but they don't have anything to back it up to replace it.
But it's good politically, so I don't see them. I think that's why there's not an interest in really moving forwards with something. Right. And I've seen Marco Rubio talk about. He was one of the guys that was in the Gang of Eight that worked on originally. I think there's some people that are interested in doing something. I just don't see anything making it through to the president. You're either going to have one side or the other, Democrats or Republicans, that are going to have issues with enough of it to vote against it.
Right. Well, that was just like I said. I'm playing kind of like the person in the middle who knows very, 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 very little.
Yeah.
And maybe trying to what little I do know, maybe ask the right questions.
Yeah.
That's all.
So the next one I had was the whole, well, they should just enter legally in the first place. Or, hey, get to the back of the line and do it like my grandparents did.
Right. But obviously that's what I'm talking about. They didn't. Their grandparents didn't do it that way. They just signed a paper. They just signed a paper and walked in.
I could see this being somewhat of an okay argument if the visa numbers weren't just so far out of whack in the United States. Uh-huh. Currently, if you look online, if you Google Visa Bulletin, it's something that's put out every month by the U.S. government that tells you where in the line they are for visas, and it gives four different F categories. It depends on what your relation is to either a lawful permanent resident or a U.S. citizen, and your country of origin. It tells you where they are at in that process. So if you look at the May 2019 Visa Bulletin, I was just looking at this last night. If you're a brother or sister of a U.S. citizen from the Philippines, they are currently working on visa applications from March of 1997. And that is a drastic improvement. Because when I started immigration in 2012, that number was 1988.
Oh wow! So they've gotten caught up considerably in this.
It's moved 9 years.
Yeah, 3. So,
well, it was 2012, so it was 7 years ago.
Right.
So, and if you're like I said, brother or sister of a U.S. citizen from Mexico, it's a little bit better. It's February of 1998. Is where they're currently at. If you're a married son or daughter of a U.S. citizen from Mexico or the Philippines, it's even worse. It's 2 years longer. They're Mexico. I think they're working on applications from like 1995, and that's if you're a married son or daughter. So why wait? When you're talking about people doing it the correct way and coming in the correct way.
They're looking at 10 to 15 years.
No. They're looking at 20 to 30 years to get a visa to come in. When you can just if you're in the Philippines, you can go to the consulate and get buy a visitor's visa and just come over here and overstay.
Right.
Which that's how a large portion of illegal immigration actually happens.
Right. It's not coming across the border. It's coming in legally with temporary reasons to be here, and then just staying.
And there is a benefit to that, because if you come in, let's say you're from the Philippines, we'll just stick with that. Uh-huh. Let's say you're from the Philippines and you come over on a tourist visa and overstay your visa, and you can live here for 15 years, right? Uh-huh. So you've got that 10-year bar of inadmissibility. You've got over a year of unlawful presence. So if you leave, you trigger that bar. But let's say you've been here for 15 years and you find a U.S. citizen and you marry a U.S. citizen. Well, because you have that legal entry, you are then able to adjust your status to that of a lawful permanent resident without leaving the United States.
Right.
So that's why a lot of people come in and overstay visas, because if you just jump over the border and come in the U.S., you're screwed. You're never going to get any kind of legal status. But all you got to do is buy a damn tourist visa, come in legally, and then overstay. And then
hopefully you find someone to marry.
And if you find somebody to marry you, now, then boom, you're set.
They have to be married within that first year to prevent that 10-year ban?
No.
It doesn't matter. They could be here for 20 years and then get
married.
Exactly.
They get
so
married.
it's not even like they're even like hunting for marriage. They can just do it naturally like everyone else.
Exactly. And then if you get that, so if you marry somebody, you file the I-130, you get approved. You'd have to go to you'll go to a fraud interview. Well, they make sure you're not
just getting married to stay.
Exactly. Right. And then boom, you're a lawful permanent resident. 3 years later, you can apply for your citizenship, and then you're good. So that's why the whole like anchor baby and all that argument kind of is stupid almost,
because it's easier to do it in a more legal way.
Yes, and it takes a lot less time.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, granted, if you don't find a U.S. citizen that's going to marry you, you're going
if you're caught. Obviously.
Get caught, you're going to get deported.
Right.
But back to the visa categories though. It's just there are some. It's not even some. There's a lawful permanent resident can legally bring their unmarried sons and daughters to the United States faster than a U.S. citizen can in every single visa category. Every single visa category. And that's why I talk about the numbers being screwed up.
Right.
An LPR should never be able to get someone in the country faster than a U.S. citizen.
Right.
But that's just a numbers game. It's just the numbers are so far out of whack that's one of the issues.
Well, I would say it's probably faster, partly because there's more of them than there are actual citizens.
But
because it's so hard to become a citizen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
We had one client that intentionally failed his citizenship exam because we found out that if he became a U.S. citizen, it was going to take him 8 more years to get his kids in. Where if he failed his exam, he'd get them in sooner. And then once his kids were here,
then he could take the exam again and then
become a U.S. citizen.
Yeah. Huh.
So it's just interesting. It's just like I said.
Well, the problem is that the system is broken.
Well, I wouldn't say the system is broken.
Well, we'll say the system is out of whack.
There has been Band-Aid placed on top of Band-Aid, placed on top of Band-Aid for decades.
It's broken. There may be good to it, but it's a broken system.
Okay, I'll give you that.
And instead of politicians wanting to fix it, they keep using those Band-Aids and then using it as a political trigger.
Exactly.
To drum up their base and their votes. So.
Yep, they use it for their own political gains.
Yes.
Well, we're already almost 45 minutes in.
And
I've made it through like 3 of my 10 topics.
Well,
or 4 of my
I'd
10
say pick 2 more.
So let's
pick
go.
2 more that are important.
So this is another one I hear a lot, and that's just that immigrants are coming here to take our jobs. This is one we can kind of skim through pretty quick,
right?
Because this is something you've been hearing for 20 plus years. At least I have been.
Yeah.
And if you really think about it, the only person that's really coming to take your job are robots and automation.
Yes.
Not brown people.
Nope. But it's easier to be scared by brown people than it is automation.
A lot
especially if you're a white male in your 50s and 60s.
Yeah. A lot of undocumented immigrants come to the U.S. and what do? They do hard work.
They work on farms.
They do exactly. They do construction, agricultural jobs, maintenance jobs, like you said, and a lot of these jobs are ones that companies struggle in many instances to find Americans
who want to do
the job. I remember we had one company that, it was one farmer we were dealing with that he had obviously owned a farm, and he had an incredibly difficult time hiring employees for his farm. And he, at one point, he even raised the starting wage to, I want to say it was like just under $20 an hour, which was extremely high for where he was at.
Right. I was going to say it's high for farm.
And he was in a rural area too. So, and he had the job posted for over 30 days in newspaper ads and online. and over the whole course of time, he never had a qualified candidate apply for it.
Right.
So, don't sit there and tell me that they're coming to take these people's jobs when U.S. citizens aren't even fucking doing it.
Right. Well, that's been a big argument on the left. They're not taking our jobs; they're taking the jobs that we Americans don't want to fucking do.
And the other thing is if you want to blame somebody for illegal immigration, it's really simple. Don't blame the people that are trying to come over here to better their lives. Blame the people that are hiring them.
Yeah.
So when we lived
in... But see, that's a catch-22 too, because now you're blaming this farmer who may have to hire them because he has no other options.
Yeah. But but that's different though. If you can come over on workers' visas and get employees like that.
Right.
Okay. And in his instance, that's what he was doing. He ended up petitioning for legal workers. For farmhands.
Right, legal workers.
So, but there was one restaurant in the area that I lived in, Tennessee. I don't remember if you were living down there at the time or not. But they got busted with like 20 undocumented immigrants.
I don't know if I was or not. I wouldn't remember that.
And so they paid like a couple $1,000 fine, and boom, it was right back to business as normal. Right.
Well,
so they look at that and they're like, look, we're paying these guys slave wages basically, so they're still making money in the long run. It's just a cost of doing business. The thing I've said for a long time is if you want to stop illegal immigration, you take that company there and you say, look, okay, you got busted hiring undocumented immigrants. You're going to prison for 10 years.
Right.
We're going to ban you once you get out of prison.
Well, here's the problem, though. Who goes to prison? Is it the manager who hired him? Is it the owner of the company?
It will be the owner of the company.
Okay.
Because ultimately is your responsibility.
Right, okay.
What
if it's a big company that has shareholders and there isn't one particular owner? I'm just asking. I'm not trying to be snide here. I'm talking.
Generally, those companies.
These are the companies.
Generally, bigger companies like that are requiring I-9s and things like that to hire employees.
Okay.
I mean, they're doing background checks on people.
Okay. I'm asking questions because I don't know. So.
But if you take the owner and you put them in jail, say, look, you're going to jail for 10 years. Once you get out, you're going to be barred from owning another business for another 10 years, and you're going to pay a several $100,000 fine on top of all that. You know what's going to happen to the jobs?
They're only going to go to citizens.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And there is a I don't remember the name of it. It's like some kind of identity check program that you can go through with the U.S. government to verify that they're a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, it's online and everything.
There are programs in place to stop all this.
There's no political will.
There's no political will to punish the people that are really.
Well, it's because the people who actually are doing that kind of thing are the people who are responsible for having the political will to fix it. Yeah. We've got the lunatics are in charge of the nut house. That's the problem.
But yeah, it's just like you said. Yeah, it's true. There's not a will to fix the problem.
Right.
There are ways.
Well, there's a will. There might be a will, but the cost benefit is it's more cost effective for the rich, specifically, to keep these things the way they are.
The other one I had another one that I always see was and it's come up it's been pretty popular lately, is the whole that immigrants are bringing drugs and crime with them.
Drugs and crime, yep. That's it.
And huge. I mean, I've dealt with hundreds, maybe thousands of undocumented immigrants, and I can tell you that these people are they're afraid to use the telephone
because of their status.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
There's no way in hell, maybe extremely small.
I'm sure there's a small portion.
A very small number that might be, but a vast majority of these people would never in a million years bring drugs with them across the border. Because they know that the penalty for getting caught doing that, which is much more severe than the penalty for simply crossing.
Right.
Because crossing the border, being here unlawfully in the United States is a civil crime. It's not a criminal crime.
Okay.
So it's a civil penalty. So that's why it's not just come here and live your life. and if you get caught, hey, you get sent back.
Right.
If they know if they come across the border with cocaine or heroin or whatever it is,
that's a whole other.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Prison.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Besides, as I'm sure you're bound to point out, look at the big shipment of drugs that they found at the New York port.
Yeah.
That's where the drugs are coming from. They're not coming. I mean, how much money could you make off of what little these people can carry across the border when you've got big shipments coming in through the ports?
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to make. Is it's not undocumented immigrants bringing this stuff in for the most part. For the most part, it's the Mexican and Central American drug cartels and probably a whole lot of fucking white people.
Well, and not only that, but even. The heroin's coming from Afghanistan.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Those are the people that are shipping the stuff in. The people that are flying the stuff. Hell, there was a big Hollywood movie made last year? Was it Tom Cruise or somebody was in it? Where it was a movie about the drug trade, about them flying in bales of cocaine and stuff like that.
Yeah,
glorified by Hollywood, I guess.
Well, yeah. Well, then it's. I don't know. My faith in humanity is a little jaded right now. Just in general.
Another one that kind of gets me is the fact that when people say, well, undocumented immigrants, or they don't call them undocumented, they call them illegals. They're undocumented.
All
right. Take public resources when they're not paying,
which is impossible because they can't get
and they pay nothing into the system.
Yeah. Well, and quite honestly, if they're working semi-legally, they are paying taxes. Taxes are being taken out, but they can't file, so that money is going somewhere, right?
Well, they can file.
Oh, they can file.
They can file. Okay. So I mean, this is basically a lie
because how do you
born out of racism,
right? How do you get welfare if you don't have a Social Security number?
I'll get to that.
Okay, I mean without fraud or
you can legally. So it's called. And most undocumented immigrants that I've dealt with have one. It's called an ITIN. Okay. It's an individual tax identification number. It looks and acts just like a Social Security number.
Okay.
Exact same digits and everything. And what the government, because the government got smart. They're like, hey,
but these are people who are documented, right?
No, these are people that are undocumented.
But they're here to a degree legally, right?
No, the people
How are they getting these cards if they're not being deported then?
Because it's not a Social Security number. It's not a Social Security card. You can apply for an ITIN. And then, because the government doesn't care your status, the government just wants you to pay your fucking taxes.
Right. Okay. Oh, so this is through the IRS.
Yeah.
Oh, so the IRS isn't technically a government organization anyway.
So you can apply for this ITIN that allows you to pay taxes, but you can also file taxes also.
Right.
And you get a tax return out of it. But and I've seen hundreds.
But can that card
hundreds
be
or
used?
Thousands of tax returns from immigrants, and they've.
They can't use that card to get on welfare, though.
No, they can't.
So that's what I think the majority of that site is talking about. They're using resources. That means they're getting food stamps.
They're not.
That's my point.
How
do you get that without a social? You can't get those.
You can't get that without.
So that is a flat out lie.
Correct. Because ever since welfare reform was passed in 1996. It's actually called the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. But Welfare Reform Act sounds a lot prettier, I guess. But ever since that was passed in 96, to qualify for any social program that that would typically fall under the welfare umbrella, because welfare isn't really a program; it's just an umbrella term for a bunch of programs.
Right.
The potential recipient has to prove that they're a U.S. citizen to qualify. Even if you're a lawful permanent resident, you don't qualify for those programs. You have to be a U.S. citizen.
Right.
So you've got millions of people that are paying into the system who cannot use that.
That was really the point I was trying to get at. There are these people who may be here undocumented or illegal, if you want to use that term, and they are paying into the system, but they get nothing out of it.
No.
So really, they're a surplus.
And legally, they can't benefit from it.
Right. So that argument, I don't understand that argument. I've never understood that argument.
The only way that I could see them benefiting from social services could be the food stamps that their U.S. citizen children could qualify for or be eligible for.
Okay.
But that's it.
And you know what? In the grand scheme of things, there shouldn't be anything wrong with feeding people.
Yes,
I don't care. I mean, we've got plenty of food.
And you're still talking about
a small percentage of financial,
and it's a very small dollar amount per person.
That's what I mean.
So you're basically okay. So what? The kid's getting $40 or $30 worth of food stamps a month
to feed maybe 4 or 5 people.
But the food stamps are specifically for the child. I'm sure the food.
Well, how is the parents going to feed the kid if they're dead?
Exactly. But they also pay into the system every time they buy something.
Sales taxes.
Every time they pay their property taxes.
If they own a house.
Right. And I've dealt with quite a few that do own their own house.
I don't know how you can buy a house without being documented, though. That's the only.
I mean, they're obviously not living in nice houses.
Right, but either way, they still have to go through a bank, don't they?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But according to a 2017 report from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, undocumented immigrants pay an estimated $11.74 billion in state and local taxes each year, and an additional $13 billion paid by undocumented immigrants and their employers in payroll taxes, which they will never benefit from.
Right. So
that's what, 13, that's 25 billion. $25 billion?
$25 billion, yeah.
A year.
And which is a surplus. It's not a drain on the system, it's a surplus.
No. And even if $1 billion of that is being shaved off, or $2 billion being shaved off because of fraud, and there is fraud. I mean,
absolutely.
A lot of the fraud I've seen is from tax returns. People claiming people that don't exist,
right,
or people that live in other countries, or they'll claim 8 or 9 people when they have 2 kids.
Right.
I've seen it. So that's the kind of fraud that you'll have. But that's on the IRS for not auditing some of the stuff that they need to audit.
Right.
And not looking at that kind of stuff. But that's the kind of fraud that does happen. So the next one I had is obviously another hot button topic in immigration in the last couple of years, and that's that a wall on the southern border will stop illegal immigration.
Nope. Because any rational person is going to know that that's not the answer.
Well, I mean, it's not.
It might stop some of it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it's not entirely untrue. It's true in the metropolitan areas on the border. In those areas, walls and physical borders like that do work. But outside of those areas, people aren't crossing there.
And how much of the border is those areas?
A lot of it. No one's crossing through the desert because they don't want to die. If they wanted to die in the desert, they'd stay in Mexico.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. In those more remote areas, it makes more sense dollar-wise to patrol it with like drones and things like that.
Could they theoretically just build walls in those higher populated areas?
There are walls in those higher populated areas.
That's
what stops people.
Then what is the fucking argument?
No, they want to build
a full. They want the Great Wall of Mexico or America, whatever you want to call it.
Pretty much.
That's what that's what Trump's picturing. The Great Wall of China is what he's picturing on our southern border.
Yeah, and like I said before, there's a huge number of. I want to say the number's right on 50% of illegal entries in the United States every year is not people crossing the border. It's people overstaying visas.
Yep.
If you really wanted to do something about illegal immigration, you do something about visas.
Right. So, let's just recap real quick. The big arguments. They're taking our jobs. No, they're not. It's, like you said, it's automation and robotics is going to take our jobs. They're bringing drugs. No, they're not. They're being shipped in through airplanes and through cruise ships or ships. They're a drain on the system. They're not. They're actually adding to the economy. And what was the other one? I think you've done 4, right? Or have you done 5?
I've done like 6 of them or 7 of them.
Well,
there's a lot of them.
Those are the big ones. I
did have one more I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
And that is that, and this is because of the whole refugee thing from the last year or so.
Right.
And that's that people feel that refugees need to be screened better before they enter the U.S.
Okay.
And as it stands now, the average length of time to be granted refugee status in the U.S. is 18 to 24 months. To be accepted as a refugee, you have to go through, it's obviously an extremely long and lengthy process.
Right.
But it includes multiple interviews and background checks. You get fingerprinted, there's health screenings, there's applications that go through multiple intelligence, law enforcement, and national security agencies before you're granted, you're allowed in as a refugee.
Right.
What part of that
needs to be increased?
It needs to be increased. Because I think we do a pretty damn good job screening people.
I would think so, based on that. I mean, I'm sure there's minor flaws here and there. There always are. But, I mean, that sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, I don't know. It just, there's a lot of reasonable things I think we can do immigration-wise.
Right.
But like I said before, it's so easy just to beat each other up with immigration.
Yeah.
One side beats them up because, you want open borders, and the other side beats them up because, you're just deporting everyone.
Right. Well, now it's not even that. It's we don't want open borders. No
one is advocating for open borders.
I know.
Nobody has said, let's completely do away with the border.
Right. I know.
Nobody says that.
Well, I mean,
I'm sure some whack job somewhere said
yeah.
that. I think my wife has said that at one point, actually.
Well, she must be whack job. She married you.
Yeah, pretty much. But she says that because she's been to Europe multiple times and sees how freely you're able to move from country to country, and
right. But you still have to be a citizen of one of those countries to be able to move legally throughout those countries.
Correct.
So I mean, there's still an argument for border. I have a problem, and I've said this a million times. I have a problem with defining people by imaginary lines on a map. Lines that don't actually exist other than through arbitrary ownership.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem. I long for the day, and it won't happen in our lifetimes. It probably won't happen in your children or your grandchildren's lifetimes.
Probably not.
But I long for the day when, there is this idea that we don't all have to get along. I'm not talking about this like lovey
kumbaya,
right? But I think there will come a point where those ideas of like I said, imaginary lines that define who we are will go away.
How about just having a little compassion?
Well, that's the biggest part right there. We don't. We should, but we
should.
Don't.
We don't.
Yeah.
But
we don't have compassion for our own citizens, much less anyone else.
No.
I mean, that's just a simple fact of the world. Take any African American neighborhood, and you can see that those are citizens.
Yeah.
And look at how they're treated and how they're pushed aside. And these are impoverished, citizens that should be taken better care of.
Yeah,
and they're not.
Or rural Kentucky,
right? I mean, to turn it around and look at how,
because it's not just
it's poverty. It is poverty, but you have to admit that there's probably a slightly larger disparity between the African American community and the rural white.
Maybe
to a degree. At least in how their people are treated,
or perception,
perhaps, yeah.
But I don't know. That's all I got, man.
Yeah, it's a mess.
I was just trying to call attention to some of the things that I read online.
There isn't much in there that
blood.
You didn't cover anything that I knew a whole lot about. I mean, I know a little bit about it, so I learned something.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. I obviously still have questions, but we could be here for 2 years answering those questions. I always have questions.
I always enjoy a good immigration conversation.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that when I hear people say things that don't make sense, I don't shy away from it because it's one of the few things that I know a lot about.
Right.
Obviously, doing it and fighting for people and winning cases. It's just there's nothing like it, man. It's like working in immigration was the greatest thing I've ever done work wise. I mean, to go in on a daily basis and have such an incredibly profound impact on people's lives. It's just,
well, you got a future position that might be slightly more.
We'll see.
Well, one-on-one personally, with people.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, nursing's
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's.
Well, I guess that's kind of the one thing that kind of steered me towards going back to nursing school or going to nursing school. It was just, and it's very cliche to say. Well, if you ask anyone in nursing, well, what made you get in? It's because I want to help people, and it's just, for me, it really is true, and it's because of what I dealt with working in immigration and helping people. It's something that really brought joy to me professionally, and it's something that I dearly miss here in Michigan. But it's not. I didn't have the same opportunity here that I did in Tennessee,
right?
To work, to continue working in that field. But so yeah, nursing is something that I can see giving me that same enjoyment.
Right. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
All right. Anything else to add, though, Ian?
No.
Don't believe all the bullshit you see online. If you see something that just sounds...
If it's on Facebook or Fox News, and maybe even arguably any of the news channels, I don't want to single them out necessarily, but if it's on Facebook, it's a fucking lie.
More than likely.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of stay on Instagram.
Well, just avoid. I'm sure there's political things you can.
Not really.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not big on Instagram yet, but I'm working on it because I really need to get away from Facebook.
Yeah,
I really need to. It's, I'm finding that it's probably just me, but I have so little in common with pretty much 98% of everyone I'm friends with. To the point that, I mean, they're almost the antithesis of my entire personality. that I don't know how that happens, politically and otherwise. I mean, little stuff like family stuff. Everyone has their own different opinions or movies or whatever. Once you get into politics, though, we all have the right to have our own opinions, but that doesn't necessarily mean where our opinions are right.
I feel like lines in the sand get drawn too quickly.
Well, we're in a political world right now where there has to be lines. Yeah. The lines are drawn regardless whether we want them to be or not.
Apparently at the southern border.
Well,
that's where the lines are drawn.
Even outside of that, I mean, just on every level, you can't have an argument on or a discussion on abortion that finds the middle ground. It's either pro or con, line in the sand.
Yeah, I think you're always gonna have topics like that, though.
Yeah, but every topic is like that right now. Everything. There is no middle ground on anything.
Yeah, you're right.
So whether, regardless of how you want to approach it, if you want to be a middle ground kind of gray area kind of guy, you can't. There's no one's even going to pay any attention to you because you either have to be on one side or the other.
Yeah.
That's the climate we live in. So
what I will say is, and I kind of leave it at this. If you're like Ian and you're just kind of fed up with Facebook.
I'm fed up with a lot of shit.
Well, if you're fed up with Facebook, block and unfriend and unfollow everyone except for our page. Follow us.
Well, and I'll second that.
I guess you can follow Ian's page now that I created one for him.
For my other show?
For your other show.
Yeah. I would have done it. You just did it while I was outside.
Yeah,
I had every intention of doing it.
For the last 4 months.
No, for like the last 4 days I've been thinking about it because you told me I had to do it in order to link things up. So
yeah,
so it's like 4 days, and you just jumped the gun and did it, and I'm very appreciative because I didn't really want to do it. I just knew I had to do
it. But so if you go on Facebook, Ian's show is called Ian and Jace's Video Seller, right?
Yes.
Is that what it is? So yeah, go on there and like his page and kind of keep up, so you'll be able to keep up with things as they release. And you're doing what, bi-weekly?
We're trying to do bi-weekly. It's going to be give or take a few days here and there, but because technically bi-weekly, I think I should have one up, and I might make it. What is that? I got to look at the calendar. This weekend or shortly thereafter, like Tuesday or Wednesday would be the 2-week mark. I'll probably have that ready, but after that, I want to try to get back. I want to get on more of the Life in General schedule, so I'm putting one up the same week Well, obviously, life in general is weekly.
Yeah, weekly.
But the every other week, it'll still go up at the same time, like on a Sunday.
Gotcha.
Or roughly around that
Yeah,
time.
so I've been, once I realized I could schedule posts, schedule episodes being able, so before I would sometimes I would put up the episode on like a Friday night and just not post on social media until Sunday.
Right.
Well, now, because once I realized, hey, there's a schedule button at the bottom of Podbean, I can actually schedule the posts. So now I think every episode goes up at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
Okay.
So I schedule it for 11 o'clock in the morning.
And I'm going to try and probably get on that same thing, but it'll be a bi-weekly thing.
But
like I said, for right now, it's going to be bi-weekly, but it might be, over or under that schedule just for the time being. So.
But yeah, I picked 11 o'clock in the morning because that's what time the record store opens up.
Yeah, and I should point out, just to defend myself a little bit here, Nick does a fantastic job on our editing, for sure. I'm trying to expand the horizons of editing. I'm trying to mix in like sound clips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that on my very second episode of editing.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm just like doing what Nick does and then popping it up or being lazy about that. I am trying to do something a little bit more elaborate.
Well, his first episode, he took,
it took me from time that I started to the time that I ended. It was that long, but I actually only spent 3 hours, 3.5 hours doing, but maybe 4, I guess. This next one is going to be even longer because I'm trying to.
I got you.
I
know. Just give you something to give you shit about.
And for what it's worth, the first episode went up. The episode's great, but there's some sound issues, some sound quality issues that I got to work out too. So I'm working on that too.
Which, if you go back and listen to some of our first episodes,
well, right, and
shit.
I'm not. I don't want to beat myself up about it, and it's
it still ended up being a good episode.
Yeah, the episode's good. The content is good. The technical side of it, I'm still learning. So it's going to be a work in progress, and I've been doing it for 2.5 years. You've been doing it a long time, and I'm kind of jumping slightly more into the deep end, like I said, because I'm trying to edit in clips and other types of music and stuff to it, and I'm finding that to be more difficult than I had initially thought. But it's fun, and I'm still going. I'd say I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to have. It'll probably take me less actual editing time to do the second episode, even though it's a longer episode and I'm putting more into it, because I'm having a little bit more fun and I'm moving a little bit faster.
Gotcha. Yeah, you'll get the hang of it.
I guess maybe at least by the 4th episode, you should start noticing a difference in the quality, for sure.
Sounds good. So yeah, go on there and go check out Ian's show, and that's about all I got.
Yeah, there's no politics in that. It's all just horror movies.
Yeah, it's all horror movies.
We're gonna talk about gore. We're gonna talk about cheesiness and fun and collecting and all that fun stuff. So,
well, if any questions or comments, you can email us at lifeandjournalpod@gmail.com. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook and all that jazz. Well,
that's it.
Until next time.
Talk to you all later.
Peace.
Playing my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bro. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.